Hi Real Writers. This week we're going to talk about the new thing, the interesting thing, and what makes something interesting. Not just new for new's sake. It's not the new thing. It is a new thing. It's a fresh take. It's a new look. And what makes that new? I'm going to put some stuff up here when I'm talking about it. And I've got my trusty iPad rather than a piece of paper, so occasionally I'll be looking at this rather than looking at you good people. Let's first look up here at what we're going to take as a set of factors, the factor analysis of the entire thing. So this goes from standard to different, and these are some factors. So we have, if we go up to the diagram, the character, protagonist, antagonist, genre, scenario, goal, and form. So in a standard film, as you can see, they're all standard. We might say, oh, it's a bit formulaic, it's a bit boring, it's a bit ordinary. There's nothing new about this story and the way it's being told. And that's very true. That is, if you've got everything standard the way it's always been, everything's right over to the standard side. And you don't have to change many things. If we look at the film Alien, and we look at the character, the protagonist, the antagonist, the genre, the scenario, the goal. So in Alien, we make the protagonist different. And what's different, not for now, but for back then when it was being made, to have a female hero. And it was a female hero that wasn't acting like a male substitute. She was still a woman, she was still female, but she was solving problems, she was active in it. So that was something different from your standard sci-fi hero film, like Star Wars, where he was going to save the damsel in distress, or Close Encounters of the Third Kind, where Richard Dreyfuss leaves his family, leaves his wife and kids, and decides to go off and fly off through outer space. They were always male-driven characters, so we had this female-driven character. And the scenario was different. If we look at what people say, well, that was a horror film in space. That's true. So the scenario was different. It wasn't this typical space opera. It wasn't a typical sci-fi. They moved the scenario to make it a horror thing. So it was still in the genre of sci-fi, but it was having a different scenario to influence the genre. Move those into the middle. They weren't just a little bit different. They were fairly different, but not vastly different. And then you get something like Alien. That's the new part of it. If we look at the next one, it could be Terminator. Okay, the characters are still the same. We've just got people. It's not one of them's a fish or anything like that. So the characterization and the characters being used are still the same. The protagonist is different and the antagonist is different. The protagonist, male, all that sort of stuff, but he's come back from the future and he's come back for love. To save this woman that he's fallen in love with from a photo. So a slightly different look on the standard a monster's coming to kill you, which is what this is. This is a standard monsters coming to kill you story, like Halloween had come before it, Friday the 13th, the Freddy Kruegers, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it was set, again, slightly different. The scenario is different now. So we've got the scenario of this creature, of a standard horror slasher film, but he's a robot from the future, so it's a slightly different antagonist as well. It's not someone who is, bullied growing up or treated poorly or their mother bullied them like Norman Bates. It was none of that. It's actually a story that was taken in the future, a soldier versus a Terminator, and dragged back into our time. And now it's a love story because he's trying to save the woman he loves from the creature who's coming to kill her. That's why it was a fresh look. That's why it was a new look. And having the monster not reacting, not fighting back, not ever becoming frustrated by it's not getting into a manic state. It's a robot. It's relentless. It's the shark in Jaws. It's reacting the same way every time, the way it is meant to react. So we can see how just slight differences, slight things sometimes in a story. And the reason I'm bringing this up, or the reason that this is maybe an important thing to bring up, is when people say, oh, what do they want in Hollywood? What would be the new take? And lastly, I'll throw up this one just for interest's sake. Imagine if you made everything different. It would be unwatchable. It would be one of those things where you just go, oh, it makes no sense. Nothing pulls together. And the reason I'm saying this is because when you're chasing the new thing, people have to still feel comfortable. They have to know, okay, I understand what I'm looking at. It's still basically, it feels like a horror film, but it's set in outer space. It's that sort of, I understand this, but here's the new thing. There's a book called How the Cadillac Got Its Wings. Cadillac had built a car that they believed they could never beat. It had the best suspension, had electric windows, it had air conditioning. It used to automatically dim the headlights when cars come near it. It had everything that they could possibly think of. The only thing they could do to make it feel like a new car was to put wings on the back of it, on the sides. And then that changed fashion around cars, and all Cadillacs had wings. It was because that was the new thing. It was only something small. They didn't change much else. And they do this for product development. They'll bring out, say, a fridge. It'll be white. It will have all its features, and it'll be at a premium price. And then they'll start dropping the price a little bit, keep the wheels turning, keep that sales going for that model. And then they'll start bringing in new things. Designer colours, a different handle. They might add one or two little things like an adjustable shelf. And then once they've exhausted all the things to make it look new, they dump it and go to the next new one. This is a bit like stories. We get the zombie films and we keep adding little things to them. Oh, it's a family. It's a love story between zombies, like Warm Bodies. It's this, it's that. It's one family trying to do this, someone on a boat, it's someone on an island, whatever it happens to be. They kept revamping the zombies, because you had a big one in the background, The Walking Dead. It was going, and then finally everyone's gone, that's it, we've got to dump it for a new model. We have to go to something brand new. So when you're looking at how to do something new, and I've done this before, this is one of the tools out of the book, where you write down everything you know about a genre, and you start changing a few of the opposites. You start saying, well, it's a Western, they don't have horses, they don't have gunfights. What would that Western look like? It's a slasher film, but all the kids are hunting the slasher instead. So it's like a vigilante film. What would that look like? It's a war film, but it's not about the war. It's about a big theft. Then suddenly you've got Kelly's Heroes. You start looking at those sorts of things. You look at your genre and you find one or two things that you can change in it, and that will be the new take on it. Maybe it's a new take on the character. So you've got this spy, he's, super smart. I mean, that's how Taken was. You've got the spy, you've got the Born Identity sort of guy, and he's really violent, he's really resourceful, can make tools, can torture people, can do all that sort of stuff. He's remarkable. But now he's retired and he's a dad. Now there's a new story. There's a new take on it. And then it was so new, it was like the zombie movies. Now suddenly everyone's a vengeful and retired, hitman, CIA operative, black ops guy. And there's so many of those coming about. So what's the next thing? Now, John Wick was another one. So what could be the next thing? Look at something that's a genre and then start tweaking one or two things about it. The show Lucifer, the devil's evil. No, so we've changed it. The devil isn't evil. He punishes evil people. He was an angel. So he was down in hell punishing evil people, and people can't take responsibility for themselves, so they blame the devil. The devil made me do it, and now I have to go to hell. You're responsible for your own things, that's why you go to hell. That was a slight different take on it. And of course, he's not evil, but he's also incredibly influential and wants to get people to do bad things. So he's all sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and has a disco, and you've got to watch Lucifer. If you haven't watched it, it's very, very funny. It's a good little show. That was the tweaking of one thing. So look at your genre, tweak one thing, and away you go. Thank you for everyone who's done this. The thumbs up and the comments and the subscribes are all fantastic, and they tell the algorithm that this is good, and they will show you more things like this. Not even just my channel, but all other channels about writing. If you interact with this channel, it helps my channel grow, which is fantastic, but it also helps you get out there and get about. Here's the books. The logline book, which is everything about log lines, gives you all the examples, tells you how to write a good log line, gives you 10 or 12 ways of thinking about log lines. And then there's Tools Not Rules, which is what I use mostly, and it's all the tools that I discuss in this channel and all that sort of stuff. There's t-shirts, which are a bit of fun. And that's about it for this week. Thank you for everyone, and as I always say, keep writing. Bye.